Hello, welcome to another session of me waffling about the news, or as I will this time, about one story, one particular rumour in the news. I am talking about a bike that has been solid grist for the rumour mill for some time and which will have its official announcement on April the 24th, I think it is. That's going to be the start of its official world launch that it's rumoured will be in Sardinia. And I'm hoping I'll also be attending it if all the logistics of me, my travel commitments and some other personal admin stuff all manage to line up appropriately. I actually, completely by fluke, happened to feature the rumoured 890 SMT from KTM in my previous news piece. And then within a couple of days of that, KTM itself started its its awareness campaign for the impending arrival of a new model. In that piece, I rattled on about how I hoped if it was going to be an 890 instead of a possible 990, if it was only going to appear later, say in 2024, that in 890 guise, it would have the 890 Duke's state of engine tune. In other words, about 115 horsepower or so. However, having read similar rumour and news stories across the web and had some people tell me that one publication in particular, and I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was, had even come across a leak, an unofficial dealer leak I think it was, although you never really know these days with manufacturers. They like to generate interest in a rumoured model through a variety of different avenues and media. Anyway, that leak apparently showed the horsepower at about 100, maybe 103, something like that. This then would confirm what I've read elsewhere, and that is, as an evolutionary offspring of the 890 Adventure, in terms of its chassis and some body parts, it has the same engine in the same state of tune as that model. My rumour waffling I mentioned in my previous news story involved me talking about how I might be rather disappointed if that was the case. It's true that I often talk about how I think the sweet spot for really enjoying a general, quite sporty road bike model is to have horsepower in the 100 to 120 horsepower sort of range. So I'm sure I'll still find the SMT entertaining if it does have the Adventure engine, but it just doesn't make sense to me on a few different levels. There again, I'm often wrong, and my surname should probably be Dunning-Kruger and not Durrans. But here's my thinking. The SMT model has some history already. There was a 990 SMT that appeared about 15 years ago. It was great fun. I very much enjoyed it. It was around at the same time and was obviously an offshoot of the 990 Super Duke. The Super Duke had 120 horsepower, the SMT had 116 horsepower. Not much of a power loss compared to the cutting edge at the time Super Duke. The 990 Adventure of the same period had 112, 113 horsepower, I think it was. Admittedly, they were V-twins back then. Now we're talking about a parallel twin, and a time in motorcycle production when shared components and platforming are necessary to battle costs and allow as many models as possible to be manufactured from as few elements as possible. Back to the 890 SMT. This isn't the main reason I think it will have more power, but it would be a nice indication of how far engineering at KTM has progressed if it debuted with the same horsepower as the previous 990, but now from an 890. Or more accurately, from a 889cc parallel twin rather than a 999.8cc V-twin. Anyway, I'm hoping that the power output is in the 115 to 116 horsepower range, which happens to be what the standard 890 Duke makes. The R makes an extra 6 or 7 horsepower on top of that. The SMT is a dedicated road bike. It will have 17-inch wheels front and back, slightly longer travel suspension than the usual road bike, and a riding position that is good for well, good for being a hooning knobhead, you know, riding wise, but also good for covering some distance. And it will be equipped to carry luggage and a pillion. The T in SMT, if you weren't aware, stands for travel or touring, same thing. The SM is supermoto. Anyway, extra weight, pillion or luggage or both isn't a problem if you've got the power to lug them around without having to work the motor and gearbox too frenetically. It would therefore make perfect sense to have the 890 Duke's motor for such a purpose. If you're in the market for a middleweight sport tourer and fancy a KTM, then why would you go for a 100 horsepower SMT when you can get a 115 horsepower Duke, probably for a bit less cash, and then fit yourself a screen and some luggage? And of course there's the very lucrative market that the SMT, whether KTM likes it or not, finds itself in. The road adventure sport touring type of bike, dominated by Yamaha's Tracer 9 with 117 horsepower. BMW's lovely F900XR is in there as well with its 105 horsepower. So is the hardcore bad boy ready to race manufacturer really going to arrive in this hotly contested and potentially very profitable segment of the market? Sorry, that's Obi coughing his guts up. Yeah, giving his opinion. Yeah, he agrees with me. Well done, mate. So is KTM going to arrive in this part of the market with what will immediately become the weakest engine in the class? Ready to come last, ready to be embarrassed, ready to eat dust, and so on. I don't see it myself, unless KTM is going to pretend that its bike is somehow in a class of its own, or something silly. I mean, if it arrives with the same power as the adventure bike, and given the handling chops of that bike, especially on a set of the latest heavily road-biased adventure tyres, why would you deprive yourself of the admittedly remote possibility for many of us of the ability to tackle a bit of gentle off-roading if the fancy takes you? Believe me, tearing up a back road on an 890 Adventure or a Norden 901 is already a really rewarding riding experience, and you'll struggle to get your head around the fact that you're on a dual-purpose bike with dual-purpose tyres. If the SMT comes along, as we are led to believe, as a dedicated road bike, then I'm convinced it has to arrive with the 115 horsepower, or very close, of the Duke. KTM even says in its press release that the naked bikes have had it their own way for too long. So what? They're going to meet their match with a bike that is way down on horsepower? Nah. I haven't found any other news or rumour posts or general chat about this power issue, and that surprises me a lot. It makes me think then that I am almost definitely wrong, but I really hope I'm not. I've been saying for a couple of years now that I would love to see 890 GT in the range. It would be exactly my sort of bike. The SMT is effectively that bike. I really do hope it hasn't been kitted out with an engine tune that turns me into a de facto adventure rider. What do you think? Am I missing the point? Quite possibly. It is one of my major talents. Or if, as KTM's social media campaign asks, you're waiting to make your next purchase in this sector until you've seen what the SMT will bring to the party, what are you expecting? What do you want from the bike? I think that's it. Get busy in the comment section. I'm really interested to know what you think about this impending new model. There's not long to wait now, but stay tuned in the meantime. There will be plenty going on here on the Bike Show channel to keep you busy until the end of April. And on that note, I'll see you in the next vid.